Once there was a caterpillar named Lyla who spent her days crawling amongst the leaves. Every day was the same routine, predictable and comfortable. But deep down, Lyla felt an unshakable longing for something more. She saw the butterflies fluttering graciously above and knew that she too had the potential to soar. Yet she feared leaving the life she knew. One day, without fully understanding why, Lyla began to spin a cocoon around herself. It was strange, it was unfamiliar. It was cut off from the world she always knew. It was away from the light and the other caterpillars, and it was far away from the comfort of her daily life. Inside the dark cocoon, she experienced confusion, discomfort, and loneliness. As the days passed in isolation, Lyla began to question everything. Why am I here? Was this a mistake? Will I ever see the light again? The silence seemed overwhelming. The stillness seemed unbearable. But in the quiet of her isolation, something began to happen. Something truly remarkable. Lyla's form began to change. Slowly, she began to feel herself transform, but it wasn't in an instant, and it wasn't easy. It required both patience and trust in the process as it was unfolding. Little by little, she shed her former self. She shed her old limitations and began to embrace something new. Then one day, the cocoon cracked. Lyla, now transformed, no longer a caterpillar, but a butterfly. Her wings were fragile at first, but as soon as she began to spread them, they spread wide and strong. And Lyla floated around, filled with the vibrant colors that had reflected her journey. What was once isolating and lonely became the very source of her transformation. As Lyla took flight, she realized something important. It was in her isolation that she discovered her true strength. I want to talk to you today about a season that most fear. It's a season that some resist, and it's a season that most misunderstand, and that is the season of isolation. Now, when I say isolation, I am not talking about a negative space where you feel cut off. I'm not talking about the space where you feel forgotten for whatever reason. I'm talking about the times when life pulls you away from the crowds and from the noise, when life pulls you away from the daily hustle and asks you to sit quietly with you. Isolation, when it's embraced with the right mindset, can be one of the most powerful tools for your personal growth and transformation. Let me start by asking you this question. When was the last time that you really spent time with yourself? Not with your phone, not with distraction, but just with you, with your thoughts, your emotions, and your dreams. In our day-to-day walk, we are constantly bombarded with information, with opinions, and with expectations. It's so easy to get lost in the mix and lose sight of who we are and what we truly want out of life. This is why a season of isolation can be a gift, a time for self-reflection, and a time for clarity in your life. In the season of quiet, you're giving the opportunity to reflect. Without the influence of outside voices, you get an opportunity to ask yourself the hard questions. Am I where I want to be? Am I aligned with my values currently? What do I truly desire? Whenever the noise fades, clarity emerges. And in isolation, you start to see things clearly. Your passions, your strengths, and even the areas in which you and I need to grow. And let me tell you this, clarity is power. Because when you are clear about your desires, when you're clear about your goals, when you're clear about your direction, nothing can stop you. Another thing about isolation is in isolation, there's no one else to point the finger at. In isolation, there are no distractions to hide behind. It's you and you. This is the moment of personal accountability, because it's easy to rely on others to give us advice, to tell us what's right and to tell us what's wrong. But when you're alone, it's just you and it's your choices. And while that might sound scary to some, it is truly liberating. You become responsible for your own growth. You become responsible for your own healing, and you become responsible for your own progress. It is in this space that you learn to trust yourself, your own inner compass. And that is an invaluable skill, because when you can lead yourself, you are unstoppable. Now, without all the noise and distractions, something incredible happens. You start to reconnect with the very thing that makes you come alive. I'm talking about that dream that you put on the shelf. Oh, you know, the one you pushed aside because life got in the way? In isolation, there's space to remember the things that fill your heart with joy and purpose. Isolation strips away the distractions and asks you, what really matters to you? What do you want to give your energy to? And in these moments, you start to realize that some of the things that you thought were important are not. And some of the things that you forgot about, like your passion and your creativity, are crying out in desperate need for your attention. And if you're listening to me today, I want you to know that you did not click on this video by accident, but you're looking at me because today is the day that you draw a line in the sand. And today is the day when you reignite the fire within you. Another thought is that isolation, it isn't just about thinking, it's also about healing. This is your time to recharge. This is your time to let go of the constant demands and pressures of others and just focus on you. There are so many voices that are telling you to always be on, to always be producing, to always be connecting. But there's a simple truth that we often forget until it's too late. And that truth is that you cannot pour from an empty cup. Your next level is going to require you to restore your mental and emotional well-being. Your next level is going to require you to listen to your body, to honor your need for rest, reflection, and renewal. This is where growth happens. When we take the time to nurture ourselves from the inside out. Growth is never outside in. It's always inside out. It always starts with us dealing with us. It always starts by looking under the hood as a mechanic and seeing what parts need replacing, so to speak. One of the most beautiful gifts of isolation is the resilience that is built within us. When you learn to stand alone, you discover just how strong you really are. When the crutch of others is kicked out from underneath you, you get to see if you can stand or not. And a lot of times we lean heavy on others because we think we have to. Oh, I can't make it without them. I don't know what I am without them. But sometimes life puts you in a situation where that crutch is kicked out from underneath you. And you will find that even though you thought you needed that crutch, you already had what you needed on the inside of you to walk without it. Often, we underestimate our own strengths. We think we need constant validation from others to hold us up. But one of the things that I love about isolation is that if you focus on you, isolation begins to teach you that you are enough. When you sit with your struggles, your challenges, without anyone else to turn to, you begin to realize that you have everything you need within to overcome. Isolation, it fosters independence. It fosters emotional strength. It fosters resilience. And these are the qualities that carry us through life's toughest storms. Another secret about isolation that we don't often talk about is isolation is the breeding ground for creativity. Without the constant chatter of daily life, your mind has the space to roam, to dream, and to create. Some of the most innovative ideas, invention, and art has come from moments of solitude. Whenever our minds are freed from external expectations, creativity begins to flow. For somebody listening to me, this is your time to start the book you've always wanted to write. For someone else, this is your time to develop the idea that has been sitting in the back of your mind. Let the season of isolation spark a creative revolution on the inside of you. Another thought is for those that seek a deeper connection with something greater. Isolation is the invitation to go inward. It's the time to reflect on your beliefs. It's the time to meditate. It's the time to pray. It's the time to be still. In solitude, we can tap into our sense of peace. We can tap into the sense of connectedness that often gets lost in the chaos of life. Whether it's a connection with God, a connection with nature, or simply nourishing your soul, isolation is a time to deepen these relationships. And speaking of relationships, when you begin to isolate, you begin to see relationships differently. Without constant interaction, you can reflect on the people in your life. Who uplifts you? Who drains you? I love what John Leslie Brown said. He said, now is the time for us to consider who should we count in and who should we count out. Isolation provides you the clarity to assess whether the relationships in your life are truly healthy and supportive of your growth, or if they're holding you back. And when you emerge from the season of solitude, you'll find that you're even better equipped to create stronger, more intentional relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and rooted in growth and bettering each other. So if you're in the season of isolation, I want to tell you, don't rush it, don't fear it, rather embrace it. And I know at times when everything feels like it's stripped away from you, it feels like a punishment. Feels like God is punishing you for something, or life just wants to pick on you for something. But your season of isolation, it isn't a punishment, it's a gift. It's a time for your healing. It's a time for your reflection. It's a time for your rediscovery and your growth. And if you make a decision not to rush out of this season, if you make a decision to allow this season to do the work that it came to do, you will find clarity, you will build resilience, and you will reignite that passion within you. The most powerful transformations happen when we are alone. And isolation is not the absence of something or someone. It is the very presence of everything you need to grow into the person that you were meant to be. Embrace this season. Your transformation is happening. If you enjoyed this video, will you do me a favor? Would you like it and subscribe? The like tells YouTube that you want to see more of the mission growth videos, and the subscribe tells me that you want to see more of the mission growth videos. I am grateful that you took this moment to watch. Always remember that growth is a journey, it's not a destination. I'm in it with you, and I'll see you on the next one.